I think realistically, to bring your brand to life properly, you need those collaborations. So, if, for example, we do that collaboration with Adrian or Zumbo, we also engaged a company called Romance Was Born, who's a Sydney designer, to do all her staff uniforms.
Hello, my name is Renae Leith-Manos. Welcome to this podcast, Where To From Here, featuring conversations about luxury travel and how it's changing in every pocket of the globe. Well, David, welcome to the show. It's fantastic to be talking to someone from Sydney. I certainly know the QT hotels. I was in Melbourne a few days ago having a cocktail on the rooftop, one of Melbourne's best rooftops at QT.
Absolutely.
So tell us about this Australian brand.
So look, we've been on the scene for 12 years now. Completely Australian brand, so 100% owned and operated. We actually started in the Gold Coast. So our first hotel was a QT on the Gold Coast, opened 12 years ago. And after this, we've opened 9 new hotels. So 7 in Australia altogether and 3 in New Zealand. We're opening a new one next year, just on the outskirts of Sydney, which will be a 11th hotel. And then We're planning quite a bit of growth over the next few years to hopefully within the next 5 years reach 20 hotels. So pretty much double what we have now. So we've got 2 kinds of hotels. We've got the city hotels and we also have the resorts type. So Gold Coast, for example, is a resorts. Newcastle is a resorts. Bondi here in Sydney is also a resort. And Queenstown in Auckland is a resort. So we've got 4 resorts and 6 hotels. So Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, Auckland, and Wellington are her kind of city hotels here.
What defines QT? What would you describe as the DNA of the brand?
The DNA of the brand really revolves around art and design. We're a huge focus on personalized and tailor-made experiences for our guests. And very much a lifestyle brand, which probably is the only real lifestyle brand in Australia. That's for us, it's all about the experience in the hotels, the vibe. No hotels completely alike. We very much play on the building we work with, the city we're in, and really embrace the community and the vibe around us. Big focus for us is exceptional dining and drinking outlets. Something we really, really focus on in terms of the experience for our guests as well.
On that note, my perception is that QT is really targeting the future luxury traveller, i.e. millennials. F&B is really important to that segment of the market. And as you say, as I said, I was just in Melbourne. It's a really sexy hot bar. Yeah. Same here in Sydney. Is that the market that QT is going for?
I think we're going for every market. And funny enough, we have such an array of guests into the hotel. And, absolutely, it's very cool, it's very funky, and it's very quirky as a brand. But it just attracts the people that align with that, regardless of their age. And, it could be the millennials, but we've got people well in their 80s that just love the vibe and love the brand of what we do. And
that's so cool.
we don't really target specifically anybody. We try to give a great experience in everything we do. And it just attracts like-minded people, regardless of their age or anything like that. So we've got anytime you come to the hotel, we're mainly leisure business. We don't really do massive groups. Most of our hotels are boutique size, up to, mostly 200 rooms is what we tap out at realistically. And so a lot of it is leisure driven. A lot of it is just really fun customers coming here to really embrace what we do. So we've got most of our hotels have more than one restaurant, more than one bar. Here in Sydney, we've got 2 restaurants, 3 bars. We've got a barber shop. We've got a spa. We run a really cool afternoon tea on the weekend with Adrian or Zumbo, who's probably one of Australia's most famous pastry chef. So it's just really creating those experiences that people would love, regardless of, their background, the demographic, or their age.
And how important is it to, I mean, I'm thinking about the Zumbo collaboration. How important is it to attract the local community into the hotels here in Australia?
Oh, look, massively. And I think collaborations for us is just such a big part of what we do, And I think realistically, you to bring your brand to life properly, you need those collaborations. If, for example, we do that collaboration with Adrian or Zumbo. We also engaged a company called Romance Was Born, who's a Sydney designer, to do all her staff uniforms. So,
oh wow!
Ever come to a QT, the first person you'll ever meet outside the door is called the director of chaos. They are girls and guys dressed really, really quirkily outside the hotel on the street to welcome you into the hotel. And they, the vibe is just very funky, very cool. And same for all the uniforms we've got throughout the hotel. So fashion, being a really big pillar of the brand, is massively important for us to actually find a brand that aligns with who we are and to deliver those uniforms for us, for example. And I think for any hotel, so any collaborations like this, so important for you to stay, dynamic and relevant in the market.
And how far can you see those collaborations going into the future? I mean, could they extend to furniture in the hotels, do you think? I'm talking about the business in general.
Absolutely. I mean, we do a lot of collabs here in terms of artwork, for example. We work with a local gallery called Blender Gallery that does all the restaurant artwork for us, for example. We work with a global art provider called Arts Edition that does all the artwork in the rooms for us and the artwork on the TV and throughout the hotel. And it's so important to have a partner like this that really specializes, in whatever they do. Like, for example, that art, for them to actually change the art on a regular basis and stay relevant and make your hotel stay relevant and fun and still attractive for people to come in, on a regular basis. Most of the time, if you don't do this, the experience is the same and you become a bit stale. And so those collaborations and working with people that work in that field day in and day out really can just give you that edge above everybody else to just make sure that whatever you do is great.
Yeah, it's interesting. How competitive is the Australian industry now in this sector, in the luxury hotel sector?
You know what? I think that Australia had been trading backwards for quite some time, but now, wow, in the last couple of years, there's been a huge boom into luxury lifestyle and boutique in Australia. And so all of the openings of late have been really, really great hotels coming into Australia and really just bettering the footprints of hotels here. So the reality is at the moment, fierce market in Australia. Really, really fierce market. A lot of really cool brand coming on board. A lot of great luxury brand. Wild of Astoria is coming to Sydney. You've got W opening in only a couple of months. Capella that just opened as well, only a couple of months in Sydney.
Yes.
The new Sofitel, Crown Towers that only opened a couple of years ago, is also, super luxurious hotel. So
that's true. Actually, there are some fantastic new hotels around.
Absolutely, and that's only Sydney. You look at Melbourne and W, Ritz-Carlton, the Standards coming to Melbourne in a couple of months. Ace Hotel that's opened in Sydney last year as well. Like, there's some really, really interesting brands and product coming into Australia, and that I'd lacked for a long time before, but
yes.
Now it's really, really coming together, and it's great for us. It's great for the industry. It's great for the rate. It's great for people being able to travel into Australia and having those brands that they are really familiar with as well, that before were not there really in numbers.
Yes.
But now every opening and every new hotel that's open is either lifestyle, quirky, cool, or luxurious. There's nothing that has been mainstream or entry level at all.
Yeah, it is. Australia as a whole, for the luxury traveller, what do you see as our unique offering here?
I mean, look, Australia itself, number one, the weather here, the landscape, just how beautiful Australia is in general, and the produce as well. I mean, the wines are incredible in Australia. The fruits are incredible, oysters, fish, meats, etc. The F&B footprint and the restaurants and the bar in Australia are really, really amazing. I think that alone is worth coming for. But in terms of, I think the wildlife is incredible. Just the beauty of Sydney Harbour, the vibrance and European feel to Melbourne, for example. There's so much that should drive people to come and visit Australia.
Yeah, it's true, because I spend a lot of time in Asia, as my viewers know. And, all of the meat, 90% of it comes from Australia. And, if I have a steak, I'm a big red meat person, I want an Australian glass of wine.
Absolutely. And you know what? And also the people. I think Australians in general, just such genuine, positive people. Like it's great to be here. And amongst it, the positivity in Australia is great. Yeah.
What drew you here, David? Because you've lived on 5 continents, you're French. How have you ended up here in Australia?
I was working and living in Dubai and got a really good job offer to come to Australia. And I'd been to Sydney only a couple of months before and really, really liked it. I thought it was really amazing. And I thought, well, there's only one more continent for me to live on. So I was going to give it a go. And that was now, 11 years ago. And it's been amazing ever since. Love Australia. I think the quality of life in general here is second to none.
So you're here to stay, do you think? I mean, is this it, or you never say never?
Never say never, but right now it's home, absolutely. And this has never been a place ever before that felt like home for me as much as Sydney and Australia does.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what would you say are the big challenges of the luxury hotel industry in Australia right now?
Look, I think right now for us is getting the international back into Australia. And that's been lacking for the last couple of years for us. And that's really, really important for this to happen again, for the landscape and all the hotels to actually work, and the bath and the restaurant in Sydney and in Australia as well. We're just lacking that demand and that occupancy at the moment. We just need to be able to drive that international back into Australia.
At the moment, where are the internationals coming from to Australia?
So mainly for us at the moment, the number one driver is still New Zealand, and has always been for Australia.
Right.
Second right now is Europe, and third the US. The Chinese market hasn't quite recovered yet, and neither has the Indian market into Australia. But we're still, lacking quite a bit. We're still 60% down in terms of international business as we were pre-COVID.
That's interesting. I mean, I often talk to GMs like yourself on this show about the costs of running hotels, especially luxury hotels in Australia. Wage costs are some of the highest in the world. How do you compete? I mean, you're saying our numbers are down. How do luxury hotels compete with the likes of Asia, where wages are so low? In some hotels I speak to, there's 4 or 5 staff per room. I mean, how do you compete with that?
Look, we certainly cannot afford to have 4 or 5 staff per room in Australia.
Oh.
It would be impossible with the cost. But like any business, you've got your targets, you've got your KPIs, and you just have to sell your rates and whatever you sell at an amount that actually stacks up financially for you. And so realistically, some rates in Asia in hotels are much lower than they are in Sydney. And also, a meal in a restaurant, so etc. So it's all relative to the price you charge as well. I mean, still Sydney and Australia is a very decent place to go in terms of cost of hotels or restaurants. If you compare it to Europe at the moment, for example, it's still a really, really attractive proposition to come and stay in Australia and holiday here. In
terms of value for money?
Absolutely. And I think especially now, the Australian dollar is really attractive from, compared to euro or the American dollars. You definitely get bang for bucks coming into Australia right now from those places at the price that, hotels are in Sydney in general. And also, great restaurants for actually fairly decent amount of money.
Yeah, compared to the big cities in Europe and America. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how does wellness dovetail into that? I mean, wellness is booming as an industry, particularly within luxury hotels all over the world. How is it for you? You've got a beautiful spa here in Sydney. Is this a big growth area here as well?
Yeah, it's something I feel we've always been on the forefront of as a brand. In a resort, we, every morning we do yoga by the pool. We've got a wellness channel on our TVs. We've got spas in our hotels as well. We're about to launch something really cool as well, which is an in-house spa package, like some kind of DIY spa packages as well. And then in terms of wellness, we do a lot with the menus as well, just being really health conscious. Every hotel has a gym. Even in Sydney, look, we don't have a pool, but we team up with Virgin Active next door that has a pool and offer gym classes, boxing classes, etc., for free to all our guests here at QT Sydney. So always been a real big focus for us. And, like you said, at the moment, it's just such a huge focus for people, massively important. And I think it's a big draw factor actually for people to come and choose and stay hotels currently.
And I also think it's a draw card for Australia. I mean, Australia's had a reputation for a long time as a healthy place, fresh air, big open spaces compared to Europe, Asia, America. It had, and the produce, as you said, we use a lot of our own local produce.
Absolutely.
So the perception of wellness and being healthy in Australia is real.
Yeah. And we don't actually, there's very little we actually import in terms of produce into a bar and restaurants. The cost of importing to Australia is way too prohibitive for us to do so, but the produce here are just absolutely amazing anyway.
That's beautiful. Yeah, why wouldn't you? And sustainability, where does Australia sit on the world stage at the moment in the luxury hotel business?
Look, it's a huge focus, absolutely. And I think Australia has been definitely backwards in terms of sustainability. You've got to do it, the right thing to do, right? But B, you don't have a choice anymore. Like every big companies that or people that book you, really interested in how they spend and who they spend their money with, and making sure that you've got, you're doing the right thing by the planet. And I tell you what, most big companies now would ask you for your sustainability plan and what you're doing before they give you their business.
Wow.
Any big corporate contract we've got in our hotels, or any big corporation that would do a conference and events with us, would be really big onto making sure that they give their money to somebody that align with them in terms of how they actually treat sustainability in the workplace.
That's interesting. And what are QT's milestones for sustainability?
Look, I mean, in terms of, we've gone completely paperless. We've also banned every single-use plastic items. We've gone to glass, we've gone to recyclable aluminum, we've gone to pouches, etc. We don't do single plastic use anymore. We've banned printing, so we're completely paperless. We recycle, all our waste and all our food. And then in our resorts, we've gone into adding, any solar panel wherever we can, and just do as much as we possibly can to be as sustainable as we can. It's a huge focus for a company as a whole, and not only QT, but the overall company of QT. And also, it's just the right thing to do.
100%. There's no alternative. And tell me, when you travel, David, where do you like to go? Is it in luxury? Is it overseas? Is it in Australia?
Look, I love doing little trip into Australia. I absolutely love traveling around. There's so much to do in Australia, but every year I do one trip, like one big trip. I'm doing one actually next month. I'm going to London, Paris, Barcelona, Rome, and Dubai, and then on the way back, Singapore for a couple of days as well. And try a different hotel every night. Different
How
bars.
do you do that? How do you go to a different hotel every night? That would kill me.
Yeah, that's what my partner tells me every time I make a pack and unpack every day as well. But you know what? You've got to, we're far away from those places, so you don't get to do it. It's not like we're in Europe and we can travel every weekend or every second weekend and try new things, right? We are literally 24 hours away from getting there. So I've got to make the most of it when I'm there and see what people are doing, what the trends are, and really be like, steal as much as I can in terms of ideas. And it's so important. And I think that, like London, Paris, New York, Barcelona, Singapore, Hong Kong, they just are great places to benchmark yourself when it comes to hospitality.
100%. Do you pick up a lot of tips for the business when you're doing these kind of trips?
Absolutely, so much. But you pick up so much tips just going on Instagram as well. It's such a good source of information. I'm big onto doing this because that's super important. But there's nothing better than seeing it with your own eyes, touching it, feeling it, trying it. There's nothing better than that. And it's work, but I love it. I love hotels. I love F&B. It's just a real passion of mine.
Fantastic. Well, look, it's wonderful to speak with you. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person at some stage soon, now that I'm spending more time in Australia, perhaps when you come back from your trip.
Absolutely. Just let me know whenever you're free, and you'll have to come and try Gowing's signature at QT Sydney.
I'd love to. And before we go, we ask everyone, where to from here today for you? What are you doing today? Today,
specifically? Okay, so today I've got a meeting with the owners of QT Parramatta, which is the next QT opening.
Yes.
In 30 minutes. And hopefully it's great news. It's all about design. So I'm really looking forward to
that's exciting.
That meeting and picking the furniture and what it's going to look like, which is going to be an amazing. Then I'm actually taking a colleague for lunch in a place in Sydney after that. And then just a regular day at work.
Gee, it's a pretty glamorous life as a GM at QT in Sydney.
Look, it definitely is. And I think that anybody coming to the hotel, like, glamour is a perfect way to describe QT Sydney. I think it is absolutely an amazingly glamorous, quirky and fun hotel.
Fantastic. Well, who doesn't want a bit more glamour in their life?
Absolutely.
I look forward to meeting you and seeing the hotel really soon, and enjoy that wonderful day ahead.
Thanks, Renae. Same to you.
Thanks for your time, David. See you later. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.